What's up, y'all? In this video, I'm going to be using iZotope RX12 to restore the debate between Kennedy and Nixon from 1960. So here's a bit of the original audio.
Radio stations of the United States and their affiliated stations are proud to provide facilities.
There's a buzz noise. There's a lot of things happening here that we need to address. When I'm working on audio, I prefer using this spectral analysis view. There's many DAWs or DAWs that offer similar views, which allow you to visually see the audio in a color spectrum like this. So the louder noises are brighter in color and the quieter noises are darker in color. I wanted to try to address some of the noises I was hearing. You can try to use individual tools to do the entire cleanup. However, I like working almost like parallel processing. For those who are kind of new to audio cleanup and restoration, you can use similar tools to kind of chip away at the issue versus just kind of using one tool very heavy-handed and hoping that it does the job. I like doing it like in a accumulatory kind of way where I'm chipping away at the problem using different methods. So first I run a declick. So here was the after, here's the before, and you can kind of see some of these little lines disappear as it had gone through and scan the audio. So yeah, these are the clicks that it addressed. This is what this module looks like. You can adjust the sensitivity. There's different algorithms you can choose from. The next thing I ran was a dialogue isolate, and I want to also preface this by saying there's no one way to do all these things. Each piece of audio you have is going to be unique, which is kind of the fun puzzle I like of restoring audio and cleaning up audio. It's just trying to figure out the right way for this particular project.
Television and radio stations of the United States and their affiliated stations are proud to provide facilities.
And there's that huge audio drop from the original recording. But just a reminder, this is what it sounds like.
They're dangerous now because they are mounting a major effort within their own country.
And then, removing all that noise.
Abraham Lincoln said the question was whether this nation could exist.
So the problem when you also do a lot of dialogue restoration when you're new to it, and you'll see this like very, very often on sites like Fiverr or Upwork and stuff, where you have all these freelancers who may have acquired the tools just out of a hobby, or they got the Jack Sparrow version, and they're just using presets and thinking they're doing something. However, they're causing more damage than good when it comes to audio restoration. Sometimes trying to eliminate all of the noise, you have a game of give and take where you're eliminating the noises that you don't want, the frequencies that you don't want affected. Your voice spans across a good spectrum here. So on the bottom, think of this like the bass in a car. Towards the top is like the treble in a car. And your voice sits somewhere in the middle here, right? And depending what noise you're trying to address, sometimes it overlaps. And removing that noise can affect the voice and introduce audio artifacts. So you want to know the tools that you're using, how they can kind of add different weird artifacts, and I'll point that out with a different tool later on, and when to kind of dial back a bit.
Mr. Khrushchev is in New York. He maintains the
while other tools can kind of modify it and actually cause more harm than good. Dialogue isolate tool or module looks like this. So again, with version 11 and 12 and 10, they all have slightly different algorithms that they've used, and they've definitely improved in this latest version, where it's probably one of the cleanest versions I've heard out there, where it has it retains just a lot of the original vocal content there without sounding all weird and modulated. It's kind of hard to describe, but it just sounds really clean compared to the previous versions. But yeah, so I ran that with removing all the noise. Sometimes that works, sometimes it causes more damage. So for this particular case, it sounded okay. However, you can also run another tool, well, many tools in here, where there's like a spectral denoise, which is very similar. So I tried doing that too, and it didn't sound too bad, but it ended up kind of adding more artifacts than I wanted it to. For that, you would essentially sample an area of noise for it to learn from, which it gave me this noise profile. And then you can play around with the reduction amount, the threshold, telling it when to start functioning. There's a whole lot of cool functions here. This is all under the advanced settings here. You can play around with how good the quality is, and then you can also adjust the noise curve here, basically telling this module, I really want you to function on these little, I don't know what you would call them, these little points that I put down here. And I told it I don't want you to affect the low end at all, so I have that cranked up to the top there. You can adjust the algorithm smoothing and noise floor and a few other things here too. But again, I didn't end up using this in the end. I just stuck with the voice isolate, but it is another powerful module that may work in some use cases. But the next thing I did run was a spectral recovery. So this can artificially kind of create these missing ranges of the spectrum that the noise reduction tool can remove.
Does not involve directly our struggle with Mr. Khrushchev. Does not involve directly our struggle with Mr. Khrushchev.
It just sounds really thin, missing a lot of the range that I want. So I use this spectral recovery and it added low end back to the voice as well as some of the top end. So it sounds really good. It sounds a little boxy almost now though. So I would go in after the fact using this tool and probably add some EQ. So basically what I'm saying, high pass filter, because it's allowing the passing of the high frequencies. And then I would also run the low pass filter, removing some of the high frequencies that I don't want. So
Involve directly our struggle with Mr. Khrushchev.
if I were to preview this, you can kind of hear what I'm talking about here.
Be given that this does not involve directly our struggle with Mr. Khrushchev for survival. Mr. Khrushchev is in New York. Be given that this does not involve directly our struggle with Mr. Khrushchev for survival. Mr. Khrushchev is in...
So if I were to apply this, you'll see it'll remove some of this color on the top here. It's removing some of the frequencies at the top and also some at the bottom. And this option on the bottom or below here with the 12 decibels, 24 decibels, is telling me how steep I would make this curve. It's getting a lot sharper. But yeah, so if I roll off these and hit render, let's select this portion here. So remove that little top end a little bit.
That this does not involve directly our struggle with Mr. Khrushchev.
So to my ear, it sounds great. Here was the before.
Does not involve directly our struggle with Mr. Khrushchev for survival. That this does not involve directly our struggle with Mr. Khrushchev.
It gets rid of some of that little buzzy noise at the very top and cleans up a little bit of the low end. Let's hop over to another tool I like using for cleaning up the audio. Okay, so now we're using Adobe Audition, and again, I'll play the original audio.
The television and radio stations of the United States and their affiliated stations are proud to provide facilities.
Here's the audio exported from RX.
United States and their affiliated stations are proud to provide facilities.
And I added a little bit of EQ using the Pro Q4.
Good evening. The television and radio stations of the United States and their affiliated stations are proud to provide facilities. Good evening. The television and radio stations of the United States.
So it's just that little bit of top end I wanted to take off. And again, similar to RX, you see the spectral view at the bottom. So if I were to apply this EQ, you'll actually see what it's doing. So hit apply, and it rolled off that top end of the frequencies. Similar to RX, how you can manually paint away frequencies, you can do the same thing here in Adobe Audition. And it will kind of erase away that.
The election of 18.
Yeah. So going back to the original audio, I'll show you a few other tools that do a similar job, if not better in some occasions, and kind of how they function. So using Acorn Digital's denoise.
Good evening. The television.
And then similar to RX, you would sample that noise floor. So if I toggle that off, I sample that area. And then going back to the audio here.
The election of 1860. Abraham Lincoln said the question was whether this nation could exist, half slave or half free. In the election of 1960, and with the world around us, the question is whether the world will exist, half slave or half free, whether it will move in the direction of freedom, in the direction of the road that we are taking, or whether it will move in the direction
kind of like how RX had that option to enabling these little dots. I can kind of control
slavery.
Which parts are affected more?
I think it will depend in great measure upon what we do here in the United States.
Okay, so we can see that it eliminated a lot of the noise. The color got darker, meaning it removed that brighter noise area. It still has a good band on the top end, which is a lot of that buzz.
1960, and with the world around us, the question is whether the world will exist.
Good tool. May not be the one that I want to use for this particular project, but I wanted to show you anyway. It's never a bad idea to have a few different tools in your bag there, depending on what the content is you're trying to edit with. By Supertone, called Clear. There's no sampling of the audio source or the noise source here. You just have these three knobs to play with.
Election of 1860. Abraham Lincoln said the question was whether this nation could exist, half slave or
Ambient
half
noise
free.
removed.
In the election of 19...
But it does a pretty decent job. Again, if I run a small section here where we can see what it does. But yeah, so it got rid of a good amount of noise, more so than the Acorn, the Acorn Digital 2.
Abraham Lincoln.
I said Acorn earlier, I meant Acon. Alright, so Acon Digital. This is the the Acon Digital Extract Dialogue extraction tool there, or module.
Abraham Lincoln said the question was whether this nation could exist, half slave or half free.
So pretty simple interface. You just have a few little buttons you can play around with here. Again, these can help you kind of specify what bands you really wanted to focus on. Okay, so that got rid of a lot of noise.
Abraham Lincoln said the question was whether this nation could exist, half slave or half free.
DX Revive Pro is a fairly new one that I added to my little tool set here. It does a fantastic job, so let's go and reset this thing to its default.
In the election of 1860, Abraham Lincoln said the question was whether this nation could exist, half slave or half free.
I love what it does, although it does some weird thing with the top end.
And with the world around us, the question is whether the world will exist, half slave or half free, whether it will move in the direction of freedom,
the frequency range,
in the direction of the road that we are taking, or whether it will move in the direction of slavery. I think it will depend in great measure upon what we do here in the United States, on the kind of society that we build.
So this is 100% studio mode, so it eliminated a ton of noise. This is before, this is after. It gave it a little bit more low end, and you can also see it actually added more noise to the top end here. So it artificially created noise, similar to how RX did, where it created this noise in the top end that wasn't there in the original recording. Waves Clarity VX. There's the Pro version, and then the cheaper version out there. And then this is just the voice.
In the election of 1960, and with the world around us,
really
the question is whether the world will exist, half slave or half free, whether it will move in the direction of freedom.
Cost a ton, however, it's worth every penny, I feel like. You don't necessarily need the Pro version. You can get away with just the regular version. Pro version gives you a few more controls.
Or whether it will move in the direction of slavery. I think it will depend in great measure upon what we do here in the United States, on the kind of society that we build, on the kind of strength. In the election of 1860.
This is like almost, I wouldn't say the bread and butter, but it's a really important go-to. And one of my favorite tools here is by TheprotoartAudio. Voice X2 is their latest version they have out here. And it just has two knobs. There's no sampling audio noise that you want to address. It just has whatever crazy stuff under the hood they have going on. So I can remove the noise.
Good evening. The television and radio stations of the United States and their affiliated stations are proud to provide facilities.
The election of 1860.
Like, it does a pretty phenomenal job at this. And I'm very hard pressed to say which one I like more. So I'll sample, maybe I'll do half with the Clarity VX and then half with this, so you can kind of compare yourself and see what you like best. And just so you can hear, here's the Waves Clarity, the cheaper version. Definitely want to wait until like Black Friday comes around and get this if you can.
I think it will depend in great measure upon what we do here in the United States, on the kind of society that we build, on the kind of strength that we maintain. In the election of 1960, and with the world around us, the question is whether the world will exist, half slave or half free, whether it will move in the direction of freedom, in the direction of the road that we are taking, or whether it will move in the direction of slavery. I think it will depend in great measure upon what we do here in the United States.
Yeah, right. It's indistinguishable. So, like, I would honestly get the cheaper version. Just if you're on a budget, no need to break your pockets to get the same results almost. Dang near, I would say. You just have a little bit more control with the Pro, as you can, again, kind of fine-tune the range that you want to affect, and that's phenomenal. For that part, I can see why you spend more, but I would say you don't need it for most cases. Okay, so just looking at the spectral view, I'll put a little marker down, you can see right here. Well, I'll put the playhead right here so you can see. On the left is Clarity VX, and it's very, very similar to the Voice X, although there's a bit more of the top end that the Voice X actually allowed in, which is kind of interesting. But let me play them so you can hear them.
Or whether it will move in the direction of slavery. I think it will depend in great measure upon what we do here in the United States, on the kind of society that we build, on the kind of strength that we maintain. Whether it will move in the direction of freedom, in the direction of the road that we are taking, or whether it will move in the direction of slavery. I think it will depend in great measure upon what we do here in the United States, on the kind of society that we build, on the kind of strength that we maintain. We discussed tonight domestic issues, but I would not want that.
They both do a really, really good job, and I'd be very hard-pressed to say one is, you know, significantly better than the other.
That we build.
Yeah, again, if you're on a budget, in this particular case with this project, I would go with the Waves Clarity VX version. I don't necessarily know if I would use the Pro version on this, because you can do just as a good job with the regular old version. I'm thinking, you know, overall quality without altering it too crazy. If a client came to me with this and they wanted to have this thing restored, you know, to be pristine and as clean as I can get it to be, I would probably work from the initial restoration using RX.
The television and radio stations of the United States and their affiliated stations are
knowing how much noise that dialogue isolate can remove, I'd probably start with that around like 60% and remove a good chunk of that. And then I'd bring it into a different DAW like this, which Adobe Audition is my favorite go-to, and use either Clarity VX or TheprotoartAudio, which will get rid of the remaining portion of that noise while also retaining the artificially created low and top end that you can get the benefit of using iZotope RX. Anyway, hopefully this was somewhat informative and kind of entertaining. And yeah, I will talk to y'all soon. All right, y'all. Peace.